Hello. This video is going to walk through how to install Minecraft and different versions of Minecraft in such a way that you can switch back and forth through the game launcher between different versions and even different mod loaders. So for example, if you play on servers and some of the servers are using Fabric, some are using Forge, some are using Vanilla, we're going to walk through how to install Minecraft in such a way that you can just easily through the game launcher switch which profile of mods are loaded at any particular time so that you don't have to keep remembering to go to the, you know, %appdata.minecraft.mods and deleting the files and putting the right mods in each time you want to connect to a different server. The game already supports functionality to allow you to quickly go back and forth between different profiles. And to be frank, I'm a little surprised it's not been covered in more detail in other places, but it is relatively simple. It does take a little time to run the installers and stuff, so the videos may be a little longer than I'd like, but I'll try to thoroughly describe what I'm doing and the reasons I'm doing the things that I am. The first thing I recommend doing is to just download the things that you know you're going to need for whatever the first modded server is that you're going to play on. In my case, everybody, I guess if you haven't installed Minecraft, you'll need to download the installer for the Minecraft launcher. And in my case, I have a Fabric server that I would be connecting to first. So I'm going to need the installation for the Fabric loader also, which I can download, from the web. You'll also, depending on what server you need to connect to, you'll have some collection of mods that you'll need to install. And that's going to vary for everybody. So, you'll see my list of mods just as we're going through this because it'll be on the screen. This just happens to be what I needed to install today. So it's what you're going to see. But you should get the mods that you need. And you should put them somewhere you can easily get to. So in my case, off the desktop, I made a 1.19.0 folder, and I've got the installers that I need, and I've got a folder inside that has all the mods that I need. And as you can guess, I'm probably going to be installing Minecraft 1.19.0. So let's go ahead and get started so you can see how this works. Now, it's typical software that in order to actually install it, you're going to have to review the license terms, check a checkbox to indicate that you understand and agree to the license terms. If you don't understand them and you don't agree to them, you're not supposed to check the checkbox, but you're not going to be able to continue till you do. This is one of those things that, from my professional side of my life, I could go on to a long rant about what I think of those things, but let's leave that aside for another time. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pin this to the taskbar. You don't need to. It'll just make it easier for us to get back to this launcher because unfortunately we're going to have to restart it a couple times. Log in with whatever account you have. If you haven't been in Minecraft for a long time, you probably still have a Mojang account. I don't know whether they let you log in but without converting it, but the screen certainly suggests you do. I suspect almost anybody watching this video at this point has had to convert their account from Mojang to Microsoft. Whatever account you have, log in. In my case, I'm already logged in to my Microsoft account on this machine, so it's easy for me to just jump right into the game. So here we are with the default installation. And at the time of my recording this video, the latest release is 1.19.0. As you might have guessed earlier, if you've been following along, I actually want 1.19, what I would call 1.19.0 to be installed. And it used to be considered a best practice to always install the vanilla version of the game before you installed modded versions, so I'm in that habit. Someone could probably say in the comments if that's not necessary anymore, but I've always done it and not had a problem, so I guess I would recommend doing it. It only takes a couple minutes. In order to install a specific version of the game that's not the latest one, you're going to need to go to the installation screen. It is worth mentioning at this point that I am doing this all in the Java edition of the game. The things I'm doing are probably specific to the Java edition of the game. And I use Fabric and Forge, and those are very common mod platforms under Java Edition. So for Java Edition, click Installations, and this will show you what versions of the software have been installed on this local machine. As we've just installed it, it only has the latest release installed. You wouldn't want to install all the versions. I mean, there's scores of them at least, if not hundreds. But you do want to be able to quickly switch back and forth between the specific versions. So we're going to go ahead and install one of those specific versions now. Go ahead and you click New Installation. And I'm going to do this a little out of order. So this version number is where you select which specific version of the game as released from Microsoft or Mojang that you're playing. Okay, is the short way to think about this. Later, after we install other loaders, there'll be other options here too. But this is the version of the binaries that you're using, the version of the software that's installed on the computer. You can give it whatever name you want. I recommend a couple things with this. I recommend that it be reasonably short and that it be very clear what version you're using and what loader you're using. In this case, we're just using the vanilla loader. We're not using Fabric or Forge. Otherwise, I would have started the name with Fabric or Forge. I'm using a specific version, which you can see I have in the name. And if I was going to have different installations of this specific version for different servers, and this is more important when you're modding them, I might even put like a dash Bob's version at the end or something to that effect. I also recommend that you don't put spaces in it. You just stick with letters, numbers, dashes, dots, and underscores. Because if you ever have to do anything from the command line with these folders, it'll be a lot easier if there's no spaces. However, you can use spaces if you want. Now this next part is where it's going to get a little different from what you probably normally would do. A lot of people, I suspect, have installed custom versions before. Go ahead and click on the Browse button, and that's going to give you a folder browser for your machine. And the default for the game is in this .minecraft folder, and this is that dreaded %appdata %.minecraft. That's usually where everybody are putting their mods and stuff under. This is the installation for the Minecraft launcher as much as anything else, but it's the Minecraft installation folder in a general sense, system-wide. So this versions folder is where it's going to put the binaries for the game. I've seen some people recommend just using this folder. I would recommend that instead of going ahead and using those folders, create a new folder structure here. And let me just do that real quick before talking about why. So selecting Minecraft, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say profiles. You could use installations, might also make sense too, right? And then I'm going to create a specific folder under there for this particular profile that I'm creating now, okay? The reason I recommend doing this instead of selecting like the versions 1.19 is you could have multiple profiles that use the same software versions, the same installed binaries with this setup. If you were to use that same folder, that versions 1.19, then you're stuck with anytime you play Minecraft 1.19, you have to use the same mods. So by moving it into its own little profiles folder, you have a little bit more flexibility. For a lot of people, that isn't going to make any difference, but I think as far as just a best practice, it's a good way to go. So having created our profiles, and then we've given a profile folder with the same name that we gave our installation. Once you've got that selected, click OK. I wish they had all this screen real estate. It'd be nice if they made this so you could see it a little better. Go ahead and just click anywhere on that game directory name and just hit end so you can see the end of it, and just make sure you actually selected the folder you intended to. For people that are playing on modded servers and stuff, another thing too, it is worth increasing the amount of memory available to the Java virtual machine. That's what JVM stands for. That's that first argument here, this XMX2G. By default, it gives 2 gigs of memory to the virtual machine. Assuming your computer has enough memory installed to have a larger amount, I generally recommend increasing this substantially. I know for my purposes, 8 gigs will be enough, so that's what I'm going to install as I do this, as you guys watch me work today. Once you have everything filled out, just click Create, and now you'll see we've got a new installation profile for that specific version. So you could just click Play from here and start the game. And that's fine. And we do want to start the game because the launcher is not going to download the binaries until you actually run it. But I also want to show you that back on the play screen, you're going to want to select the version here if you want it to be available by default every time you start the launcher. So I don't know that it matters for what we're doing right now today, but I'll just to show you. We'll go ahead and select vanilla 1.19.0, and we're going to click play. And it's going to download whatever binaries it needs. It'll create whatever directory structure it needs in that profiles folder, and it's going to get everything ready and then start the game. So I'll probably fast forward through some of this. So here we are in the Minecraft game, and you can see we've got Minecraft 1.19, not 1.19.2. We've got a very specific version. And there's no mods installed or anything, obviously, because this is vanilla. And just for illustrative purposes later, let's go ahead and let's create a single player world just to kind of show you that these saved games are specific to the profile that they're in. Okay, we're not really going to actually play. Let's just kind of look around, and looks like we're in some plains, some flowers, not a lot going on. But anyway, we've got a saved game at this point for this profile, which is the 1.19.0 profile for vanilla. So what we need to do now, the next step if you're trying to install, like a modded version for example, my family's server, is you're going to need to install a profile for that modded version. And in order to do this, in my case, I'm going to be using Fabric. We're going to quit out of the game, and we're going to need to install Fabric. So let's do that now. Back in that folder I recommended earlier that you have downloaded everything and have everything kind of staged and ready to go, go ahead and double click on the Fabric installer. And this was the latest installer as of today. Now, it is important to not just click through this. Remember, we were using 1.19.0 was what my family uses for a modded server right now. So you want to make sure you grab the specific version that makes sense. That's required. It's not that makes sense, that you'll need to be able to connect to the server that you want to play on. You can usually just use the latest loader version, so you shouldn't need to change that. This installation location might be a little confusing in the context of this profile. This is just, you can leave this alone. This is the directory that Minecraft launcher is installed in. It's not the new profiles folder. This is where the launcher is going to be running from. So just leave it alone. And then you could leave it the create profile click, but then it's going to go ahead and create a profile using that same folder, that common folder for the launcher as the profile location. And we know we don't want that because we want each profile to have its own location. So go ahead and just unselect the create profile and then click install. This process goes really fast. I mean, I can't even say that. It goes so quick. You click OK. It doesn't exit out because it does give you the opportunity to update, for example, Fabric on different accounts or to install a server as well. So you'll have to manually quit out, but just go ahead and exit out, and then we're going to go ahead and start the launcher again. So here we are back in the Minecraft launcher, and we've still got just our installation profiles that we had before because we unchecked that option in the Fabric installer. If we go to the installation screen, let's go ahead and create a new one for the Fabric that we just installed. So we click New Installation. I'm going to do this out of the same order we did last time. Let's go ahead and select the server version first. And you can see we have a new version. I guess there was no way to really call out that it wasn't there before. You can go back and check if you'd like. But this wasn't here. That installer that we just ran for Fabric added this release Fabric Loader blah 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 for 1.19.0. And that's the version we're going to want to run. So we go ahead and select that, give it a name that makes sense for you, so that you'll be able to find the specific version and loader that you want, or maybe for a particular server. Kind of keeping with what we said before, I'm going to go with Fabric 1.19.0. I'm going to change the profile directory to be a new profile directory that we're going to just, by the way, you can see some subdirectories were created under our vanilla folder when we ran the game. But anyway, we're going to go ahead, select profiles. We're going to make a new folder, and we're going to give it the same name. Okay, and select it, and click OK. Quick paranoid check, click, hit end. Yep, we grabbed the right folder. Give the Java virtual machine a little bit more memory, especially in this case because this will be the modded server. So it's going to need a little bit more memory. And hit create. And we have a new profile now. Don't worry about that exclamation mark. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. We have a new profile just like we did before. And we can go back to the play screen. That guy's going to show up here. We can grab it and click on it. Now that exclamation point is, you can see here it's saying that the installation's been modified. You're going to get nagged about that again when we go to play it. And I will say, before you install any mods, let's go ahead and start the game. And I know it's a little tedious, but that gives us the game a chance to download what it needs to run the unmodified version of Fabric. Because if that's not working, there's no point in putting the mods in. So you might as well make sure that Fabric itself is going to load. Eliminates a whole bunch of things that could go wrong. You don't have to worry about you have the wrong version of some mod. You have no mods yet. So we're going to run it and see that it works. And when you do, you're going to get this screen that's warning you that it's a modded version of the game, which is the same thing that exclamation point was telling us. And this is basically Microsoft saying, hey, don't call us if this breaks. If this breaks, you have the pieces. You're on your own. But it also, to be fair, is also like, hey, maybe you didn't know that you have a modified version of the game and yet somebody else wrote this code and maybe you shouldn't trust it. So, it is actually a nice safety feature, but if you know that you're okay with what you've installed, it's annoying to get this every time. So you can just go ahead and click, I understand the risks, and then we won't see this ever again when we try to use this specific profile. So go ahead and hit play. And as you install mods, this load screen will get longer. It'll take longer to load. And I keep knocking that audio down because I'm not certain if I'm capturing the audio or not. I don't remember how I set OBS up for this screen capture. But here we are, we're in the game, and you can see now we see something a little different. We got 1.19/Fabric modded. So it'll be a little more clear later. At this point, there are no mods. You have Fabric, so it's modified by Fabric itself. Later, you'll see that it'll actually tell us how many mods we have here. But it is clear we're using a distinct and different version of the game. And by the way, if we go into single player now and try to load that game we created before, it puts us straight into the world creation screen because there is no saved game in this profile. Let's go ahead and we'll create another game. It's just illustrating, just to kind of help you guys have some confidence that this is working. Let's go ahead and create a new world and just look around and so you can see that we end up with a different world. Well, okay, good. We ended up with a very different looking seed, right? We were surrounded by plains with some cows last time. We got like a river, some hills, birch forest, right? We're very clearly in a different world. And let's go ahead and save and quit out. And similarly, now if we go to single player mode, we don't see that game we made before. We just have the one we just made now because this is all saved in a different profile folder. So at this point, we've got Fabric installed for a specific version of Minecraft. So let's go ahead and actually put the mods in. And in order to do that, as tedious as it is, we once again need to quit the game and go back out to the to Windows. Back in the File Explorer, if you followed my recommendation before, you should have all your mods ready to go. So we can just go into this mods folder, and these are the mods that I need. You don't need to worry about what mods I have here. Don't be like frantically trying to look through this whole list. These are the mods that are needed to run on the specific server that I'm going to be playing on later today. The mods you need will be the mods for whatever you're going to be playing on. So you don't need to have these same mods. Don't even worry about that. That's not at all important which mods I have here. The only one that maybe is worth calling out is mod menu. And the reason for that is we're going to be able to see that guy really easily after we restart the game. But anyway, go to the folder where you downloaded all the mods you need. Hit Control A for all to select all the files. Hit Control C to copy the files. That's going to leave a copy here too, but it's going to let us put copies of these somewhere else. And here we go. We got to go to that dreaded %appdata% folder. For those of you that aren't real familiar with the File Explorer, this bar up here where it says this PC desktop 1.19, this is the current location we're looking at on the file system. I'm not going to make this a tutorial on the File Explorer, so don't worry if you're already familiar with this. If you're not familiar with the File Explorer, I do recommend you learn a little bit more about it, because if you ever end up working with PCs in college or for your work after, it is very useful to know how this stuff works. But the important part for what we need to make sure you understand today is this is the location where we are on disk. So if I click on that, you can actually see we're on the C drive, we're in this specific folder. You can type whatever you want in here. You can change this. So if we just get rid of mods, hit enter, boom, we're in the top folder. You can type any folder name that actually exists in here. Or there's a couple special folder names that Microsoft will recognize as being specific locations. These are basically variables that point to somewhere else. And that %appdata% is one of those. So when I say in the email, for those of you that are on our server, you just type %appdata% in that for the directory location. That's literally all you need to do. You click that in and you hit enter, and it whisks you away to a specific location on disk. You don't care about most of the things in here. The only folder we care about today is this .minecraft folder. So, the nice thing with it being .minecraft is it'll be at the top of the folder. There's actually other reasons for that dot, but they don't really apply in this tutorial. Go ahead and go into that .minecraft folder. And this is that same directory that was the default directory for the installation profiles. And you can see it's got a profiles directory here, just like we created earlier through the game launcher. And if it's the same one, we would expect that it has two profiles in it, right? It should have vanilla 1.19.0 and Fabric 1.19.0. So let's go take a look. And lo and behold, it does. This is literally the same exact location that we were telling the Minecraft launcher we wanted it to use for those profiles. So we're going to be modifying the Fabric profile because Vanilla can't take mods anyway. So go down into the Fabric one. Now, if you come into this folder and there's nothing in this folder, that means you didn't start Fabric with, after you made the profile, because it's the actual process of starting Fabric that creates this folder structure. And that was one of the reasons I recommended doing that. If you're in that case, you can actually just manually create a mods folder. But I really do recommend you just please try to start Fabric at least the one time with no mods, just to make sure you got everything right. Once you are here, go ahead and go into the mods folder, and this is where you're going to copy all those mods to. And in order to place them here, the ones we copied earlier, you can just hit Control V, and it puts a copy of them all here. And now we have all the mods that I had downloaded previously into my little staging area are now here. So now we have to see whether they actually show up in game. In order to do that, we got to start the game again. So we started the launcher. We make sure that the profile that we want to use is here. Go ahead and click play to start the game. So in my case, that mods collection that I installed had an older version of this one Minimap mod. Some mods are kind of nice and they check to see if there's an update. You may or may not have this sort of screen pop up when you come in, depending on what mods you're using. I don't really care about that it's out of date right now, so we're just going to go ahead and kind of click through this. And here we are back in the Minecraft game, and you can see we have Minecraft 1.19/Fabric, although this time instead of saying modded, it says 107 mods. So it knows you got a ton of mods installed. And for those of you that are paying really close attention, you might notice there's actually another button on the screen as well. This mods button wasn't on there, even on the Fabric version of the game, until we installed that mod menu. And this guy lets us really quickly kind of see which mods are installed on the game, and a lot of them can be configured and have settings set through here. Now, because this is the same profile that we were using for Fabric, it still has our saved game that we made for Fabric. Now that game was made with no mods installed, right? Now, fortunately, the mods we have, it's going to load just fine. Now, granted, whatever chunks were created in this game before we copied the mods over, they won't have the benefit of any blocks that those mods might have randomly spawned into the game. So you really, before you create a game, you really want to install your mods as a general rule. But I just wanted to show you that here we are back in the same game that we had before for Fabric. However, we still do not have that first game that we created in the vanilla game. And that's because that's in a totally different profile. So it's saved in a totally different place. And there'll never be a chance that we accidentally load that game with our modded game that we created under this profile. So there's no risk of us accidentally contaminating that vanilla world. And the same would be true if it was Fabric or whatever else you were wanting to install. So I mean, it's really that simple. The trick is to make sure you give those specific profile directories or installation directories as you're setting up the new installations. I think that's really all there is to it. I mean, I can go back and load the vanilla game, but I mean, hopefully you just take it faith that it works. If you go ahead and try this yourselves. If you have any questions, the people that are playing on the server, on our server, I'm glad to try to help you. I'm not a YouTuber or anything, so I mean, I'll try to answer questions in the comments as time allows. But that is the basic process you use to set up distinct installation profiles that don't cross-contaminate each other, each have their own copies of mods, their own saved games, and that you can just switch to by changing the pull down on the game launcher. I hope that helped, and thanks for watching.